no, this is still dangerous. No, we don't want to talk about it. Okay? And others, this is quite strange. Others said, we've forgotten the tragedy, okay? We've forgotten it. And they asked me to forget about it too. They just forget about it. They said like that. But what I have witnessed is actually the other way around. They have not forgotten it. Of course. How can you forget that? They haven't forgotten it. But the tragedy has actually forgotten them. The tragedy denies that it ever happened. Because in Indonesia, the government denies it. And why? Why does this happen? So at the beginning, I thought, well, it's the politics of fear, isn't it? It's easy to blame the politics of fear. It's the easy answer. It's the politics of fear. I think many of you must have known about the politics of fear, yeah, here. So it's you can add if you want. So basically, it's the use of fear and spread of fear in general public by certain politicians or certain group of people to gain political benefits and or control. And over 50 years after the genocide, the term PKI or communist is still used today to vilify people. Okay, PKI or communist equates with evil and atheist. But by the way, atheism in Indonesia is bad. Atheism is considered as evil in Indonesia. And tough luck, I'm an atheist too. So tough luck, really. Anyway, yeah, and so when they attacked Jokowi recently, they called him PKI, they call him communist. And this is really weird to me because he is clearly pro-free market. Clearly, everywhere when he talks, you hear his speech, he is pro-free market. He is a liberal, basically. Clear, it is really clear. But then, to stigmatize him, they call him communist, they call him PKI. And that's happened in Indonesia. Ahok as well, they call him PKI, they call him communist. And he's not even, Victor actually asked me, is Ahok left wing? No. It's not even left wing. It's not even left wing. But then people just call him PKI, because when people call you PKI, you get fined in Indonesia, usually. I've been called PKI several times. So,
PKI or liberal.
yeah. And also the funny thing is, was it a few months ago? Not only a few months ago, several times basically. These fundamentalist groups demonstrated in the street in Jakarta, and then they've got a banner, get rid of PKI. PKI the same as liberal, only in Indonesia. This is really funny. And then in another city, I can't remember now, it's somewhere in West Java, we are against drugs, PKI, and LGBT. So it's like, oh, this is funny. This is interesting, because they somehow equate these three, the PKI, drugs, and LGBT. What's the connection? I don't know. I really don't know. I just get confused. And when you ask people, actually, you say, when PKI, we're anti-PKI. What is actually PKI? Anything bad. But what is it? It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Basically, they say they're evil, they're bad. And that's it. The main answers will be, if you ask them, the atheists, they're evil, they're bad. Oh, and they like free sex. Free sex in Indonesia means that it's sex outside of marriage.
Oh.
That's what they say. So that's their concept. And then I'm like, oh, you have no idea. But anyway, that's what happens in Indonesia. Now, even now. That's what happens. And yes, at the beginning I thought, I'm going to write about politics of fear in Indonesia. But then as I went along, as I was interviewing my respondents, I found there's something more serious than the politics of fear. Something a lot more serious actually happened in Indonesia. So no longer the politics of fear, but the mutation of fear. That's what I found there. So why I call it the mutation of fear, like, cancer, yeah? The mutation of cancer cell. When cancer cell mutates, usually the cell moves to another part of body, okay? And when it moves to another part of body, the cell is more malignant, and usually it's no longer detected, or it's really hard to detect, okay, when it moves, okay? And in this case, fear produced by the state seems serious and obviously threatening, okay? It's the fear produced by Suharto, it's clear, fear of the PKI produced by the state. You can see it, it's the source is the government. However, there's another form of fear, the fear internalized within the family. And this kind of fear has mutated into different forms, and this is what I found as I went along. Okay, they no longer talk about fear actually in Indonesia. When they didn't want to talk to me, when I interviewed them, and they said no, we forgot about it, or they said no, we just don't want to talk about it. Why are you frightened? No, we just don't want to talk about it. You don't talk about 65. What for? So it's no longer fear. They don't talk about fear. Or they just said, we want peace actually. We just want peace at the moment, because if you talk about 65, then you will create trouble. And now, the condition is better, isn't it? We are no longer stigmatized like before, they say. Because before, during the Suharto, your ID card has a special stamp. If you were an ex-political prisoner, or even members of the family. So the children, the wife, grandchildren, they've got special stamp. And now during the Gus Dur era, they got rid of it. They got rid of the stamp. So it's like a witch hunt, really, in the medieval period. If you want to compare it, it's like that, similar in English. They got rid of it. Only in 1999 they got rid of it. So these people who are interviewed, the respondents, they said, look, the condition is better. What do you want? Do you want to create more trouble? So they don't talk about fear. They talk about peace. We want peace. You should support peace. Yeah. So several of the memoirs I've gathered depict how the parents banned the children from getting involved in politics or challenging the government. Siblings asked their brothers or sisters not to get involved in the project. And some grandparents warned the family to never speak up. Okay. And many of these people who forbid others to speak up have also been victims of the 1965 atrocities. So this is similar to actually what my mother did to me. Okay. She said, not because of fear, it's because I love you. Okay. It's because of love, not fear. Okay. I love you, I'm thinking about you. And that's what happened. That's what I found with lots of them. They said, look, I love you, I'm thinking about you, let's live in peace, So don't talk about 65. So they didn't actually talk about fear, and that's why I call this mutation of fear. They no longer talk about fear. They talk about peace, they talk about love, they talk about something else, and then they say, well, that's why I don't talk about 65. And this is in a way harder. It's internalized. They no longer recognize it as fear. It is. And it has actually, in a way, it has stopped me trying for years as well. And this kind of fear can maintain the legacy of Suharto as well, this kind of mutation. Suharto died several years ago. Suharto died in, do you remember when he died? 2002. Yeah. So years ago, Suharto died years ago. But the terror continues, his legacy continues. Okay. Only a few are willing to open up, and my respondents who decide to reveal the truth often have to face resistance, not from the government this time, but from the people close to them who fear that future disasters may befall them, you know. So the government is, look, the government hardly does anything if you want to practice it at the moment, you know. Hardly anything. They're not going to ban you. But it's the members of the family, the people closest to you, now actually say, no, don't do it, you know. And that's what I was experiencing. You know, when I came, then the members of the family would just go, oh, what the hell is this, you know. So I had to face this from them, okay. Not from the government, not from the army or whatever, not from the authority, but from these people who are just, who are victimized, who have been victimized, okay. So the main hindrance of many 1965 activists has often been their own families. You know, I can ignore the warnings or even threats from other people, maybe. In a way, for me, it's easier, you know. But challenging my own mother, who has suffered from my father's imprisonment, you know, then this will be another story for me. Huh? It's a completely different story, and I would just go, how could I do that, you know? And it stopped me from writing, actually, for years and years. It stopped me. It did really stop me, and at some point I thought, maybe I should just forget about it, you know? Because it was more difficult for me to challenge my own mother, who was in many ways victimized as well, okay? And out of fear, the victims have become the hands of the new order regime, you know, the regime who victimized them, helping to sustain its ideology. The state now has not even forbidden these people from writing, but the banning is already there, internalized, psychologically embedded, and personalized. And that's why this is what I call as more dangerous, actually. Mm-hmm. Such mutation of fear is very effective and inexpensive, you know, because the government doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to spend money. They don't have to lift a finger. It's already there. It's an inexpensive confederate for maintaining the power of the deposit rulers, no? So they just sit down, and then the victims do everything for themselves, for the government, for the authority. Okay, so that's why the victims even blame each other. They blame any effort of revealing the truth as dangerous, stirring trouble and chaos. They serve to maintain the ideology that led to their own persecution. So that's why, for me, this is more dangerous than the politics of fear. And that's what I call as the mutation of fear. Another example is the film of Joshua Oppenheimer as well. You know how people say, oh, Joshua Oppenheimer revealing the truth, great, you know. But not all of them say that, you know. Some of the victims and even some scholars say the impacts of Joshua Oppenheimer films are not only positive. Have you seen it? Any of you or all of you who hasn't seen it? Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So basically, but you know about it, no? You know about the film?
What's the name of the film?
It's The Act of Killing and the Look of Silence. So the act of killing. The act of killing actually is about how these mass murderers brag about how they killed the communists, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh, we slaughtered them, you know. They're like, oh, we were dancing when we were doing it, you know. You should see it.
You can watch them for free on YouTube, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's on YouTube for free, both of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But you speak Indonesian because they have no subtitles.
No, I don't.
The one you showed us had.
That wasn't the versions are even in Indonesian only.
Yeah.
So only the paid versions have subtitles? Okay.
I'm sure if you just go outside YouTube, you might be lucky.
Okay.
maybe. Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Yeah. So basically, these mass murderers bragged about how they did it. They proud, and they said, "Oh, we should receive an award for our bravery." They think they're heroes. And the look of silence is about this, the sibling of the victim, who I also interviewed in this book, the sibling of the victim, and he finally meets the murderer, one of the murderers of his brother, and challenge him. And so basically, back to the film, the response of the film. So they said, the impacts of Joseph Abrahams films are not only positive, because of the films. Now, because before, when we talk about 65, the government doesn't do anything. Now the army started being stirred up. They reacted. Like Cliff Lanzan and Kiki Shinakari, and then Luhut. Luhut also started saying, "Oh, PKI, is alive again." So they said, "Look, so it's not always, it's not just positive, because they stirred up trouble in Indonesia." And then I said, wait. If you challenge the people in power, are they gonna say, "Yes, my dear, you are right"? Of course not. They're gonna make it look worse. Of course, they will react against it, and they'll try to make it look bad. I mean, it happened in Germany as well. If you read the history of Hitler, when there was like opposition to Hitler, and Hitler started going psycho, killing people in public, hanging them in public, to make it look. If you challenge me, it will be worse. To make people say, if you challenge me, then this is what happened. It's a threat. It's similar, but can you blame the people who try to reveal the truth? No, of course not. But then this is what happened. They blame each other. They blame each other. Even the scholars say it like that. Some scholars, not only in Indonesia but here, actually, in the West, they also say like that. The impacts of Joseph Oppenheimer's films are not only positive. I'm shocked actually when they say that. So that's what I call as the mutation of fear. So they don't talk about fear, they talk about, they blame the victims. Okay. So honestly, my project has created tensions within the victims' families as well as in my own family. However, it has also linked the people affected by this tragedy together. Okay. I'll give an example now of Sriono Wiwowo. This is one of my respondents. He lost his two brothers and sister-in-law. His sister-in-law was raped before being murdered, and then later on his father was also imprisoned. So nearly the whole family, the members of the family were wiped out. Okay? And this is the story of the death of his brother. This happened in 1966, March 1966. I usually brought food for my eldest brother in a metal lunchbox. One day in March 1966, I already forget the date, I brought the last lunch food, the one which he never received. For the afternoon, as soon as I arrived at the security post, the officer asked me to go home, but I waited to see what was going on. Sometime after, there was a truck outside the yard, and many policemen were coming out with their guns. And he told me he was only about 10 at that time, about 10 years old, okay? And he witnessed this. This was followed by a group of men marching with their hands behind their backs, and their thumbs were tied to each other with shoelaces. I guess there were around 20 people there, and amongst them was my eldest brother. I remained standing near the security post, and my brother suddenly turned his head and saw me. Smiling slightly, he looked at me for a long time and gave me a sign of farewell. That day, I represented my extended family to say goodbye to him. So, that's it. That's the death of his brother, basically. And in 2013, when I started interviewing him, he swore that he would never tell his wife or children about his real family history. He said, "I only tell you because you promised that you're going to write in English, and you promise you're not going to tell anyone, okay? Only keep this in English, never translate it into Indonesian. Because my family, they don't speak English. I said, oh, they're not going to read. He said like that. Fine, that's what I promised him. And this is a photo of his brother who was murdered, and this is the sister-in-law who was raped and murdered. Okay? And in July 2015, I visited Sriono in his home in Sukoharjo, Central Java. His extended family was there. After a long chat about 1965, because I interviewed him, we talked for about 3 or 4 hours. They were there, they were listening, the family. I remembered how Sriono had sworn 2 years ago, 2 years previously, that he would never reveal about this family history to his wife and children. We spoke Indonesian, so they were listening. I thought, you told me that, and then they were all here listening. So I asked him what happened. Okay, I said, so when did your wife and daughter find out about your family's history? And he said, just now. He said he decided to reveal it, finally, And he said, well, just come here because, I want to reveal our family history. And this woman will come and then you will hear it, So he already, so before I came, a few days before I came, he prepared them a bit, telling them a bit of their family history, just a little bit. But then they heard a lot when I was there. And then that's why I thought, a lot of them were just crying. And then I thought, oh, so they just heard it. Yeah, just now, yes. And I really couldn't believe it. And I got quite worried as well because I thought, what would they think, Are they shocked or whatever? And they said, some of them said, yes, we were actually really shocked. But it's actually good, Actually, it's better that we know this, that we found out finally, And they said, and that's why. And then they started remembering the past. And that's why, when we asked him about this and this and this, he never answered. Oh, he got angry when we talked about this, and it was for no reason. So there were things that were weird that they couldn't explain, and suddenly they'll become clear. Yeah, so that's why revealing what happened to us and members of our families, it's just the very beginning of our claim that victims have everywhere to speak up without any